Have you ever buckled into your airplane seat, ready for a smooth, routine flight, only to hear the captain's calm voice announce an unexpected delay due to airspace restrictions and wondered what on earth that really meant and why no one ever explains it clearly? Because behind that simple sentence lies a hidden world of geopolitical tension, silent negotiations, invisible borders in the sky, and global events that quietly reshape your journey without you ever seeing the real reason. And today, we're pulling back the curtain on how wars, political disputes, trade conflicts, and international power struggles reroute planes like chess pieces on a global board, turning what should be a straight line from point A to point B into long looping detours that cost airlines millions and steal hours from your life. And it all starts with the invisible highways in the sky called air corridors, which are carefully negotiated between countries, allowing airlines to pass through certain airspaces for fees and under strict rules. And when two nations are friendly, flights flow smoothly. But when tensions rise, those skies can suddenly close like a slammed door, forcing pilots to take longer routes that burn more fuel and stretch flight times. And you might think this only happens during major wars, but in reality, it happens quietly during diplomatic disputes, sanctions, military exercises, or even political protests. And most passengers never know, because airlines often use vague phrases like operational issues or air traffic congestion to avoid panic or controversy. But for example, when conflicts break out in regions like Eastern Europe, the Middle East, or parts of Asia, massive chunks of airspace become no-fly zones overnight. And flights that once crossed those regions in a few hours must suddenly swing hundreds or even thousands of miles around them, sometimes passing through multiple countries just to stay legal and safe. And this doesn't just affect international flights either. It can cause ripple effects that jam up airports across continents. Because when flights arrive late, connecting flights are missed. Crews time out due to labor laws, planes are in the wrong cities, and the entire schedule begins to collapse like dominoes. And airlines scramble behind the scenes trying to reassign aircraft and crews, while airport staff deal with frustrated travelers who only see delays and not the global chaos causing them. And one of the most surprising parts is that sometimes reroutes aren't about active fighting at all, but about political pressure. Like when countries block each other's airlines from using their airspace as a form of protest or economic leverage, which forces carriers to take longer, more expensive routes, while competitors from neutral countries fly straight through, giving them a huge advantage. And this has happened many times in recent years, quietly shifting which airlines are faster, cheaper, and more reliable. And another hidden factor is military drills. When nations temporarily close large sections of sky for exercises, sometimes with little notice, and suddenly dozens of commercial flights must divert mid-air or before departure, creating hours of delays that seem random to passengers. And then there's the issue of safety insurance. Because when geopolitical risk rises in a region, insurance companies may refuse to cover flights through that airspace, even if it's technically still open, forcing airlines to reroute just to stay financially protected. And all of this adds up to longer flights, higher ticket prices, and more frequent delays that feel like bad luck, but are actually the result of global power struggles. And pilots often know exactly what's happening, but aren't allowed to explain fully due to company policies or international sensitivities. So you're left staring at the departure board, wondering why your flight is late again. And sometimes reroutes can add so much distance that flights need extra fuel stops, meaning you might land in a country you never planned to visit just to refuel, turning a simple trip into a mini world tour. And while airlines try to plan for these scenarios, geopolitics is unpredictable. One announcement from a government can instantly change global air traffic patterns. And the technology behind managing this is incredibly complex, with air traffic controllers coordinating across borders, satellites tracking every aircraft, and software recalculating routes in real time to avoid restricted zones, storms, and congested skies. But no system is perfect, and when a major airspace closes, it's like shutting down a main highway during rush hour. Chaos spreads fast. And what makes it even more frustrating is that passengers often blame airlines for delays when in reality the decisions are made at government and international levels far above any airline's control. And airlines themselves lose huge amounts of money due to extra fuel, crew overtime, missed connections, and compensation payouts. which eventually get passed on to travelers through higher fares. And yet this whole geopolitical layer of travel remains mostly invisible in travel vlogs and airport announcements, because it's complicated, sensitive, and not exactly comforting. But understanding it can actually make you a smarter traveler, because you'll start noticing patterns, like certain routes being consistently longer during times of global tension, or flights avoiding specific regions altogether. And you'll realize that sometimes the fastest route on the map isn't possible in real life due to politics. And one of the wildest examples is how some flights between Europe and Asia now fly near the Arctic, passing close to the North Pole just to avoid closed airspaces further south, something that would have sounded crazy a few decades ago, but is now normal due to geopolitical shifts. And these polar routes are colder, riskier in emergencies, and more expensive, yet necessary. And another strange outcome is that some countries earn billions simply by charging fees for planes to cross their skies. So when airspace closes, those nations lose massive revenue, which can further escalate tensions, turning air travel into an economic weapon. And while passengers sip coffee at the gate, global negotiations quietly determine whether their plane can fly straight or must zigzag across continents, and even weather interacts with geopolitics. Because when storms block the few remaining open routes around restricted airspace, congestion becomes unbearable, leading to massive delays that cascade across the world. And during peak travel seasons, like summer and holidays, these reroutes hit even harder because the sky is already crowded. And every extra mile adds stress to an already overloaded system. And what's fascinating is how quickly airlines adapt, sometimes rewriting decades-old routes within days, retraining crews for longer flights, adjusting meal services, and reworking schedules, all because of events happening thousands of miles away that most travelers will never hear about on the news. And yet, despite all this complexity, airlines still try to keep things feeling normal.
Control, Unit 7, male gray hoodie, moving toward checkpoint C.
Smile,
Copy Unit 7, monitoring, secondary check authorized.
And you're meant to believe it's just another day of travel. But behind that calm surface is a constantly shifting global chess match. And the next time your flight is delayed or takes an unexpected path, it might not be because of a broken plane or bad weather. It might be because two countries are arguing, a military drill is happening, or a new sanction just dropped hours ago, and the sky above you has quietly changed. And while we often think of borders as lines on the ground, in aviation they stretch upward into invisible walls that can appear and disappear overnight, reshaping the flow of the world. And the craziest part is how quickly these changes become normal. What feels shocking one week becomes routine the next, and travelers adjust without ever fully understanding why their journeys are getting longer. And in a way, every flight today is not just a trip across distance, but a journey through global politics, diplomacy, and power dynamics, all hidden behind a simple boarding pass. And knowing this doesn't make delays less annoying, but it does reveal that your travel experience is connected to events far bigger than a single airport or airline. And it shows how fragile and interconnected our world really is, where a conflict in one region can affect vacations, business trips, and family reunions across the planet. So next time you hear that familiar announcement about delays or route changes, remember there's probably a story unfolding far above and beyond the clouds that no one is telling you fully. And if you want to travel smarter and with less frustration, a simple suggestion is to always check global news before long international trips. Allow extra buffer time for connections, and choose airlines known for handling reroutes efficiently. Because understanding the hidden forces shaping your journey can help you plan better and stay calm when the sky takes an unexpected turn.